excited to bring you another inspiring standout episode, which is a collaborative, broadcast that brought to you by IBA International Law Section, ABA International Law Section, I should say, and the Switch. I'm getting excited to see it. I did so many times that every single time I'm flowing with my word. Don't worry. It's all live. So in this series, David and I will interview international legal leaders out of the amazing community of the American Bar Association, International Law Section members, and share with you insights, ideas, stories, strategies. If you've been before, it's always valuable to stick till the end because we're always all together, including David and myself, having a lot of lessons to learn, to inspire, and help you grow your professional practice in your career and even your life and you're invited. So hi, David, and again, wonderful to see you again. People think we see each other every day. We don't. But thanks again, David, for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to see you. It's wonderful to see you. Just enjoying our opportunity to spend time together and really excited about our guest today. Really one of my favorite people in the ABA that I get to work with on a regular basis, Michelle Jacobson.
Great. And we're going to talk more about it. But, I wanted to continue my tradition from last time, David, and surprise you always with questions. So here it comes. So can you share with us maybe a new insight you had in the last few weeks since we talked last time?
Actually, I do have an insight, and I didn't know that you were going to ask the question, but I had a chance to speak in front of a group and talk about how time passes. And does, sometimes we experience things and time seems to just fly by. And other times it seems just painful. And the question is sort of why. And I identified two bases for why time would fly by. The first is when we are enjoying time with someone special, someone that we enjoy spending time with. And that's, I think, why these sessions, at least for me, even though they're a half hour, they feel like 30 seconds. By the time we're done having a conversation, they're completely done because I enjoy spending time with you and our guests. And our guests have just been so amazing. And so to me, that was category number one. And category number two, the second situation where time just seems to fly by is when you are on the pressure of a deadline, when you're trying to achieve something by a certain time. And it occurred to me that both of these are really incredible tools that we can use in our own life, that we can judge how we're feeling about the people that we're with by recognizing that experience. And, if we're nervous about something, etc., then focusing on the deadline will make the time go faster. But if we focus on sort of how long it is until that time happens, and we're not focused on what we're doing, but rather just, the aggravation, the example that I was giving was when I was engaged, every day seemed to last forever, because I was so excited about getting married. But when you change that, if you're in that situation and you want to try and speed up time, just focus on what you need to accomplish and all the different things that you need to accomplish to make the wedding happen. And then all of a sudden the time will just fly by. So just those were some insights that I came up. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to tie that in the way we tied last time.
For sure. First, there's expression, there is no maniac who could stop the time. Time is the cure for everything. But the thing I remember when I wrote my book, David, I dealt actually with time because people tell me, attention, all the things I talked about are all limited. And then I came to the conclusion in my book, it's unlimited. You can give unlimited attention to everybody, everything. What is limited is the time. It's the only commodity you're limited in life. And if you don't spend it with the right people, with the right purpose, with the right thing, it will go away and you cannot bring your time. And I remember sharing years ago in Christmas time, actually, in December and Hanukkah time for me, where a video between Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, interview on Rose show in the US. And the interviewer asked to see the Warren Buffett agenda. And he opened the agenda, and the agenda is all open. Warren Buffett, an empty agenda? And Warren Buffett looked at the person and said, listen, I can buy anything I want in the world, any watch, anything. The only thing I cannot buy is time for myself. And this is the power of time. So absolutely, thanks, David, for that. That's why we entitled this episode, Growing Success in the Shade of the giving tree. I mean, a lot of you maybe know what we're talking about. A lot of you don't even know. Like myself, I was ignorant before. Educate myself for this session. But again, if you are here with us and I can see you coming in, please type your name in the chat. Let us know you are with us because we want to know, but also our guests want to know that we are not alone in the room. And if you have a question to our guests during the session, as usual, ask it also in the chat. Put your name, put your question all in the chat. Now, many of you maybe know already Shel Silverstein, classic children book, a story of selfness, sacrifice, and love. But I'm sure you also read this book, David, and I know you did. You probably have a copy in front of us to show us in a second. When you were a child, I remember you prepared. But what was one takeaway that you can recall from the book? What will be this one takeaway, David?
Oh, the one takeaway is definitely the fact that that the people who love us the most are those that seem to always have more to give and more to share with us, effectively highlighting that they always give us attention when we need it.
Love it. But today, actually, we're looking at this beautiful metaphor from a new perspective. Could this tree we all come to know as the giving tree actually teach us something else about balance, ambition, collaboration, and the growth in our professional life? Or you bet it can, right? But for lawyers and professionals in any industry, it turns out there's a lot more we could learn from this timeless tree. How do you grow practice and career, help others to succeed, and still thrive yourself? Is it possible? This is the reason I actually have the honor to have this episode with advocate Michelle Jacobson. As David already mentioned, she's someone who embodied the lesson of the giving tree in her approach to her practice, to her client, to her leadership, and even her team. She's thoughtful, driven, and incredibly accomplished immigration lawyer, was a champion major reform on behalf of the legal profession, and all while being, as she herself admit, an introvert. So for all of you quiet yet ambitious people that are listening to us, this one is for you too. And I want you to stick with us because that's interesting, insightful, and you want to stick with us. But before we invite Michelle to join us, let me give you a short highlights about Michelle and very fast. So Michelle Jacobson has said is an immigration lawyer, powerhouse with over 2 decades of experience advising everyone from startup to Fortune 500 giants. Michelle not only helps businesses and individuals navigate complex immigration policies, but also shapes them at the highest level. She served as the chair of the American Bar Association Commission on Immigration and as the secretary operation officer for the ABA International Law Section, having previously held key leadership positions like the policy officer and diversity officer. And beyond her professional expertise, Michelle's commitment to public service is extraordinary. She serves as the vice chair of the board of directors of the Chinese American Service League, helping provide essential services and pathway to citizenship for immigrants in Chicago. A strong pro bono advocate, Michelle works with asylum seekers, DACA recipient, TPS applicants, and victims under the Violence Against Women Act, while also providing critical support to determine immigrant families at the southern border. And is an influence voice in both practice and policy. Michelle Works has been recognized in renowned legal publication, and she continued to play a crucial role in building fairer, more humane immigration system. Again, more about that in this insightful episode. I know she doesn't like me reading it behind her back, but that's part of our life. So without further ado, David, let's invite Michelle to join us. Welcome,
Absolutely.
Michelle. And thanks for
Hello,
joining
Michelle.
Hello, I'm blushing. We haven't even started, and I'm blushing.
That's the reason we do it behind back of the people, because we don't like to read it before. We hate to read ours. But Michelle, great to have you here. Thank you for everything. Thanks for joining us and for your valuable time. But we want to dive right away to our conversation. And David, the floor is yours now.
Absolutely, Michelle. So great to have you on our Standout series. And of course, as Itzik mentioned, we titled this episode, Michelle Jacobson, Growing Success in the Shade of the Giving Tree. So, I have it upside down. There we go. Got it the right way now. So, you can see I've got my copy. I have wonderful memories of this Shel Silverstein book. So please, remind our viewers about the book and tell us about, the lessons that you found, how you found success through the lessons of the book?
Well, it's a great story. I mean, I think it's generally known as a children's story, right? For those who don't know this lesson, and I think one of the more valuable lessons that is taught in the book is the value of being generous, right? The value of giving. We have gotten a lot of success in our lives as a result of our family and our loved ones nurturing and being able to be generous, I think, and those are the values that we like to impart when we talk to people, when we meet people. And I think one of those lessons that I think we take away as adults now is being able to be that generous person, that giving person, without necessarily expecting that reciprocation in return. And there is value to that. And I think when we think about ourselves as individuals in the profession and the way we want to network and meet people, we have to think of it from the perspective of giving that positivity, giving that compassion without expecting anything in return. And I think that's one of the greater lessons I think that we can approach from a more of a professional capacity from that book. And I think for me, at least, I'm a big believer in karma. And so for me, when I meet people and I connect people with other solutions, opportunities, and other people that they want to meet as well, it's not with a specific, goal in mind, or I'm not necessarily tallying or keeping score with folks to see, is something going to come back to me in return. So if I'm putting out that karma in a positive way, then I know that eventually that'll come back to me, and it'll pay itself, 10 times more.
Wow. Go ahead, Itzik.
No, I just want to thank Michelle for sharing the inspiring story. Actually, there's a beautiful connection, and I love that you have tied selflessness into the idea of a strategic generosity, if you want to call it like that. Because I always, when we teach building relationship, also the reason you build relationship is only for building relationship, and all the other things you get, friendship, referrals, whatever it is, all side effect of you focusing on building relationship. You don't build relationship, you get referrals. You build relationship because you want to get something. Do it purely because you want to build it. And you don't only give endlessly yourself, you give thoughtfully. And I think that's another thing, and that's with impact. And it's such a valuable difference between the two. Many people give without even thinking what they're doing. And you do it thoughtfully because not everybody deserves your giving. Because if you give to everybody, you'll be exhausted. And the really people who need your giving will not have anything for them. But speaking of impact, if you allow me, I truly believe that, I'm sure David will join me here on that, we all have our journeys shaped by passion, hardship, inspiration. And your story is so uniquely impactful, if you allow me to say that. So to continue the conversation, my question to you, Michelle, is you shared that you are an introvert. And all us, with us, of course, preparing to this call. But tell us more about your background and how it really coupled with your introverted nature led to become such a thoughtful immigration lawyer you are today.
It's a great question because it's so interesting to see when you meet people, like what their narrative is, right? How did they come to be in this situation? And, how did they come to be in this far in life and their careers? And for me, being a natural introvert means that I'm not the first one to jump into a situation. I tend to be the one that kind of leans back a bit and assesses the situation a bit more. I'm a big listener. So that's oftentimes, I think, where my introverted nature comes in handy. I'm a very good listener. I'm looking at the situation very thoughtfully, as you mentioned, and being able to sort of kind of assess the room, right? And as you're working with people, you want to be able to sort of analyze the situation and approach it very thoughtfully. And that's one of the things that I do in my natural introverted state. I think from the time I was a child, it was that introverted nature came in handy. And I think it was oftentimes perceived as being shy. So I think when I think of myself as a young child, I was definitely more of the quiet type, which I mentioned to you all. When I was a child, I was learning English for the first time. So I was, my native language is Spanish. So I went to school not knowing any English. So that first year in preschool, I was pretty quiet because I just didn't know what was happening. It took me probably a full year of learning the language to sort of absorb and be able to connect. And I think that was sort of where my introverted nature started to come in handy is that I'm absorbing everything. I'm learning. I'm seeking out that information, but I'm not necessarily letting the universe know that I'm absorbing all of that information. I'm taking it all in. So I think that came in handy in life because I ended up placing myself in more of an underdog kind of situation where I think people were surprised after, a year's time at how when you did speak to me, you realized quickly, she really understood like what was happening in that room. And then at some point in my schooling, my parents were told, she should be put ahead in class. She's really quite ahead, and was something that was surprising, I think, to most people because they just would not have assumed that it was because I was so quiet. I wasn't showing everyone just how smart I was and how successful I had become in school. So I think that served me well in life to be able to sort of propel myself into those situations without anybody really knowing that this was all happening at the same time. So, and I think from the time that I went to law school, I didn't have, I'm first gen, child of immigrants. So I didn't have a set pathway to follow. And for me to sort of observe, what others were doing and seeking sort of opportunities as they kind of came my way, that was something that wasn't necessarily handed to me by any means. And being a child of immigrants too, I think you're just naturally more inquisitive and being a little bit more of a go-getter in the opportunities that are given to you, or sort of serendipitous opportunities for you to say, hey, maybe I should pursue this and see what happens to me. So that just happened to be one of those situations that I kind of came across, was being a lawyer, being able to apply that sort of thought and analysis into my roles. I think that's where essentially I decided from very early on that I wanted to do something international, because it really allowed me to sort of merge my passions of working with people and working with others, and being able to sort of merge my interest in international relations with immigration. So
thank you so much for that,
Wow.
Michelle. I mean, I think we've said in the Talmud, David, correct me if I'm wrong, is the border of the wisdom is quietness, right?
That's right.
Exactly. And I think that shows exactly what Michelle, and something I hear from many of my mentees, the client, and even experienced lawyers, that tapping into personal value could be a challenge. But you've shown us again that the grounding your career on those values not only keep you authentic, but also creates deeper relationship, as we're going to see all together very soon. Again, if you have a question for Michelle during the session, do it right now. Type it in the chat. And if you are here with us, I know you are here. I can see it, but I want everybody to see it. Let us know. Tap your name. Let us know where you're dialing from, because we all want to know you are with us in the room. We are here with Michelle Jacobson, talking about growing success in the shade of the giving tree. But now let's lean into something else about you that many people admire, David.
Yeah, well, I want to say something specifically that I admire, and that just, in that regard, which is, one of the things that you highlighted, which is a skill that really is such an important skill that I think all lawyers, and I really, my rabbi always likes to say, I'm speaking to myself and having you listen. And so I'm really doing that right now. I'm speaking to you all, but, I'm really speaking to myself and having you all listen. And that is, in our meetings in the international law section of the ABA, Michelle, you bring that skill that you just mentioned to those meetings, meaning you're not necessarily going to be the first one to speak, but after you speak, you can see the impact that you have on everybody else in the room. And to me, you're not the first lawyer that I've seen do this. Somebody in my community who unfortunately has since passed away was the first one that somebody pointed it out to me about how their leadership involved that. And I think that it's really an incredible skill, because I know, speaking for myself, as soon as I have something to say, I want to say it. And yet you have that ability to say, you know what? I know that if I actually hold off, what I say will be even better and even more received. And I think we can all really learn from that. And I want to now take that and say, you've shown that actually there are times where you actually do need to speak out, and you're willing to do that. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about the recent resolution regarding immigration that was adopted by the ABA House of Delegates at the most recent annual meeting in Chicago, and how that came about and the role that you played. Because, again, you're an introvert, but but you know how to reserve that strength so that when you do need to be, out there in front of people, you can do that. And if you can share sort of what gave you that strength and what our listeners can take away for, finding their own strength, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting as a natural introvert how it's not meant to be confused with shyness, right? So the introvert and the natural introvert is one who is just absorbing, listening, assessing the situation, and then when the time is right, you speak up and you say what you need. And in that situation that you described, David, it was a perfect opportunity to do so. It's a resolution we worked really hard on to promote. It was a gender-based resolution to be able to say to the governments right now that we need additional changes within our own asylum policies. And so with that in mind, I think when we propose any of these types of policy resolutions across the ABA, we want to know ahead of time if there is any concern, any controversies that we might want to get ahead of. I think as lawyers, we tend to want to know and assess and over-prepare for those situations, right? So you want to make sure your arguments are aligned to make sure you are addressing all of the different points and questions that may come up along the way. And I think as we're preparing these types of policy resolutions, knowing that it's going to have that specific impact, you want to make sure that you're covering all your bases, right? So I think from that standpoint, I think we worked so hard for many months. And in this case, we worked on that resolution for a better part of almost 2 years. And by the time we met at the annual meeting in August, it was almost like running a marathon. And so we had our international law meeting a few days just prior, and then we had our commission meeting as well. So I was leading discussions on both of those meetings, and then we had a panel presentation on the current state of asylum in Chicago. And so I had another panel presentation to present ahead of that resolution presentation before the House of Delegates. So it was a bit like running a marathon. You're kind of preparing your arguments for different situations, right? We had our meetings ahead of time, and then we had our other meetings, and then we had our panels. And then by the time we had our House of Delegates meeting, I think I ended up being one of the last resolutions to present in that 2-day House session. So by the time Tuesday came and went, I think I felt like I had indeed run a marathon. We had gone through so many conversations, so many discussions along the way that I think when we ended that meeting, it felt like a whirlwind had happened. I said to my husband when I got home, I'm like, I think I need to take a very long nap. It was just a whirlwind of emotions, and just being able to see all that hard work kind of come together. You realize quickly across the ABA how impactful our policy making is, and then seeing those responses and seeing the later applications of it. We just had a presidential statement come out, which is fantastic. It's fantastic to see just exactly how much good work the ABA does across the board and in all different areas of the law. And in this one specifically, it's really nice to see that we're taking a stand right now before it's too late.
Yeah. So what gave you in the strength during the course of that marathon run? What do you think was crucial to that when you said, what, I'm exhausted, I can't do this. What did you rely on to help you through those toughest moments?
It's that over preparation. I think that we tend to do, these introverts, we like to prepare. We definitely like to make sure that we have everything we need. And when I was saying we wanted to ensure that we had all our arguments covered, all of our bases covered, that was a huge thing. And I tell this a lot to my mentees, is that certainly as a person who identifies as a woman of color, you want to be over prepared for any situation, because you never know how you're going to, what kind of audience you're going to walk into. It might not necessarily be a friendly audience. It may not be an audience that necessarily understands the issue. It may not be an audience that necessarily wants to hear what you have to say. So I think one of the other things that I think that you realize quickly in that natural introverted state is that you need to be paying attention for those cues. You need to pick up on those subtleties to know if that person is understanding what you're trying to say, and then you need to adjust your dialogue so that you can make that impact. And I think that's one of the great things I think that I've learned over the years is as you're preparing for those arguments, you need to be able to adapt quickly. So if you're perceiving that that person's just really not listening and not really understanding what you're trying to say, then you need to prepare for that adjustment and be flexible in that response.
Wow. Such an important lesson. All right, well, I'm going to take it back to you, to Itzik. Go ahead.
No, I'm just expecting that, but maybe Lincoln was also an introvert because he said if you give me 4 hours to chop the tree, I spend the first 3 sharpening my axe, right? So preparation. But again, those of you who are joining us now, it's not too late. We are here with Michelle Jacobson speaking on growing success in the shade of the giving tree. And we're glad that you're here, even that you make it here, because I know it's very typical time that most people are avoiding anything else. So thank you for your attention on behalf of all of us. And please feel free to type your question in the chat for Michelle. Again, even if you watch the replay, it's never too late to ask a question because I'm sure she'll be happy to connect and help you out. So you all know the structure of our sessions, and you know we come out to our attention switch moment. A good opportunity to give attention to those people who deserve it so well within the American Bar Association International Law Section global community. So, Michelle, your time come. Who are the 2-3 people that you want to thank within the ABA International Law Section community, and why?
The first person I want to give a shout out to is Gabrielle Buckley. I don't think I would have joined the ABA International Law Section had it not been for her. She is our former section chair and former delegate as well. So one of the things I will say about Gabrielle is that she commands a room like no other. I say that to everyone who meets her, like they walk away just saying over and over again, she's fantastic. What a great speaker. She's someone I really emulated over the years, just watching her and observing her in her approach. And she's exactly the lesson that we're discussing today. She's exactly that person who's very giving, very generous, very compassionate. And it shows in her demeanor, and the way she commands that room is something that's really impressive. So I give her my shout outs because without her, I would not have ever joined the section, and I would have not have been involved with the ABA. So the second person I wanted to give a shout out was my fellow partner, Lisa Ryan, who's also a former section chair. And in my firm. So she is wonderful. And one of the things I say about Lisa is that you want her in the room with you when you need a calming presence, someone who has that same demeanor that can really work with you in those stressful situations. I want Lisa there at all times, especially when you are in those stressful client situations, you're really not quite sure what to expect, those prepare for the unexpected situations that we're talking about. And she is one of those individuals who has that calming, soothing demeanor that every time you work with her, you're like, oh, can I just have Lisa there at all times? And it's just one of those, I think, great attributes that I give to people when I see them. Like, we just need more calming presence, I think, in at all times, especially now when things are so stressful and we don't know what to expect, especially in the months and the years to come. We definitely need more folks who are more like Lisa, who are great listeners and have great sentiment to sort of work with people and really be able to sort of collaborate with others. And no matter what our differences are, we could all use a fair amount of listening and a fair amount of compassion in how we approach things.
Thank you very, very much, dear Michelle, for sharing. Again, shout out to Deborah and Lisa. I mean, if you listen to it right now or later, we hope you know that deserved and get to you. Again, now it's the last time to ask your question to Michelle, because before she leaves, I want your question here. If you have a question, put it in the chat. We're going to ask your question to Michelle. But if you are with us and sticking with us, I think that's so wow, right? Such an inspiring story Michelle shared with us. Both as a reminder of what's at stake in our work as lawyers, and also the proof that introvert can move mountains when the cause align with their values and with their passion. And to those of you who listen to us who think you are quiet in nature, can hold you back, Michelle's story really is a proof that your thoughtfulness, your preparation, your strategy can be your greatest strength. So you got to use them. So if you listen to it, do it. And Michelle, our guest, is a true example of it. So I don't know, David, if you want to add something before we thank Michelle.
I'll just note that Michelle's two choices of people to thank, Gabrielle Buckley and Lisa Ryan, are excellent choices. I remember, I think it was during the year that Gabrielle was chair, I worked with Lisa Ryan as co-chairs for the ABA's International Law Section annual conference in New York, and working with the two of them. Exactly right. Gabrielle was there with the forward thinking, etc. And Lisa was there with the calming presence and made everything work so nicely together. I have in my office that I'm sitting in right now a picture of all of us ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, or not ringing the bell, but at the platform where they ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Just some beautiful memories from that. And, I hope that everyone listening can really take away those lessons of, being being a mentor for others by setting an example and by being that calming presence in the room. And if we can all do that, what a better world this will be.
Great. And then I just want to correct because I said Deborah and Lisa. I should say Gabrielle and Lisa. So sorry for the mistake. And again, shout for Gabrielle and Lisa for everything. Again, so with that, we don't have any questions coming in. So I think we want to thank you, Michelle. Don't go leave us because we're going to stick behind Michelle's back. We want to thank Michelle first. It's been an honor, absolute an honor for both of us to have the last session of the year with you, Michelle. So thank you very, very, very much for that.
Thank you, Michelle.
Me.
Hope to see you soon in one of the upcoming conferences. So stick with us because we're going to talk behind Michelle back. That's David and my tradition.
Yeah, our favorite part of the
David, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, awesome. I take away a bunch of things from this. The first is always be over prepared. And the number two is work harder than necessary. And I will tell that, a personal story that I don't share very often, but let me just share it. And that was, when I was interviewing, I still remember it like it was yesterday. This is the fall of 1993. I come into a very famous law firm here in New York City. And the person sees that I'm wearing a kippah on my head, that I'm an Orthodox Jew. And he says to me, you're worth less to me than another associate. And I was just shocked. And I understood where he was coming from, because he's like, well, you can only work 6 days and somebody else is going to be able to work 7 days. But he had no idea who I was. He didn't know how hard I would work, that I would always be over prepared, that I would always work harder than necessary, that I was going to always be there and make sure that if I couldn't be there because of my Sabbath, somebody else would cover it and be able to do what was necessary. But rather he judged me based on my appearance and judged on my religion and religiosity. And, to me, those lessons are how I overcame it and how I've seen so many people overcome it. And to me, that is just such personal lessons that I found so meaningful in what Michelle said. And the final point that I'll make is about the book, right? And I only now, I think, after hearing Michelle, I always thought the book was because at the end of the book, the tree has nothing left to give other than as a seat for the old boy who the tree loves. And I always used to think that the story was about, this constant giving, and that actually maybe we shouldn't be constant givers. But the tree actually ends the story with a feeling of satisfaction that actually, despite the fact that it was the tree who gave the entire time, the tree actually did get something from the boy. He got the boy's affection and love, etc. And even when he didn't, when the boy goes away and has the rest of his life and seems to be missing from the tree's life, the tree also appreciated it. And so it really, got me to rethink and to understand that actually the giving nature of the tree is in itself, that when we give, we can actually receive. And to me, that's a highlight of the switch that you talk about, the attention switch. And so I'm going to turn it back to you with that, because I know you'll do a beautiful attention switch as part of whatever you use to close.
Thank you, Dave. I was just thinking about this person you mentioned in your life. I would send this person flowers every year and thank you for being an idiot. That's my way of thinking those things, because otherwise you were not going to be amazing as you are, David. So if I had to distill the key lessons from today's conversation so far, so here's what stands out for me. First, I think, as David also mentioned, is always be over prepared. The preparation is the foundation of confidence and success. It's not just about knowing your case, it's about anticipating challenges, thinking ahead, and being ready for anything. It's exactly the way we prepare for each session. We spend hours and hours spending for this half an hour we have online, because that makes us feel comfortable in the content we're sharing you. So when you over prepared, you perform with certainty and authority, even under pressure. That's extra effort really assure you that clients and put you in the control of the outcome. The second, work harder than necessary. David just mentioned it just now. I didn't plan it with him, but it's exactly what I felt. Excellence comes from going beyond what expected. It's not about burnout. It's about giving the extra care, the effort that sets you apart. Clients and colleagues notice when you deliver more than they ask for. And that's they earn the trust to you, the loyalty, and the respect. This is how you stand out as a firm. This is the name of the game. Hard work isn't just an effort, it's a commitment to excellence. And number three, it's expected me to say that relationship are everything. Success thriving on authentic connections. Nurture relationship with your clients by truly listening and showing you care. Example, Michelle gave us so much about listen to the goals, build partnership with your colleagues, and foster collaboration and shared success. Don't take it only for yourself. Or maybe we didn't hear it between the words. Michelle always put her team before herself. And don't forget to check it with yourself. Focus on the relationship that align with your values. Those are the ones that help you grow and keep you absolutely grounded. And I want to wrap things up with a thought. They saw that Shel Silverstone beautifully illustrated the idea of giving in the giving tree. But what we have learned today is that the success isn't only about giving endlessly. It's about knowing how to exchange value, how to invest in relationship that causes you care about, and how to grow while still creating space for others to succeed alongside and not instead of you. This is exactly the beauty of what Michelle showed us. And as you reflect on today's conversation, I want you to consider this quote by Albert Schweitzer, who said, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you'll be successful. Again, so think about your work, your client, your team. Are you aligned? Are you giving back in ways that fill you and those around you? When you find the sweet spot, your career will grow like the giving tree, steady, fruitful, and lasting. And again, now it's time, your friends, to take your action to implement everything you learn in this lesson. There's a lot today, and I promise you, if you listen again and write down, put your notes, put it to action, that's your time. We've been here with Michelle Jacobson. She's the top immigration lawyer and wonderful member of supporter of the American Bar Association International Law Section. And who do you think I want to thank again? David, I want to thank you for this year full of insight and kindness. Our conversation really always brings me so much clarity and perspective. And I appreciate the way we work as a team to bring this powerful lesson to our audience. I mean, it started with the idea, we make it happen for the whole year. And I really, really look forward to so many more insightful and powerful conversations with you and our upcoming guests in the coming months in the year to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'll just say, lean into who you are, and that will enable you to stand out. And that I think was the lesson, not only of today, but it's the lesson of our series and showing how there are so many ways that we can lean into who we are and thereby stand out. So Itzik, you will always stand out to me. I so appreciate you, and looking forward to working together in the new year.
Thank you very much, David. And David, myself, want to thank each one of you there that joining us. Thank you very much for your time. Make sure to join us on the next episode and the beautiful thing coming your way. And share this episode with anyone who might need these lessons today. Until next time, our friends, keep growing, keep giving, keep building success in the way that truly matter. And see everyone our next episode in the coming year. Bye for now, everybody. And thanks for joining us.